The Maximum Happiness course, available online at www.maximumhappiness.co.uk. Welcome to Session 6 of the Maximum Happiness course, Your Belief Systems. I'm excited to present this session as it deals with taking positive action about your beliefs, taking major steps to eliminate any irrational, negative or self-limiting beliefs, preparing yourself for a future of improved happiness and potential. A belief is not merely an idea the mind possesses. It's an idea that possesses the mind. There is a strong unconscious drive to behave consistently in accordance with our beliefs. Our beliefs will stop us from trying certain things, or they will affect our results and therefore our ultimate happiness in different ways. Whatever we believe with feeling, rightly or wrongly, positively or negatively, becomes our reality. Our beliefs form a filter through which we see our entire world, and we naturally resist allowing information that is inconsistent with our beliefs to pass through our filter. So even if we have beliefs that are totally inconsistent with reality, because we believe them to be true, they become true for us, and we behave and act in a manner that is consistent with those beliefs. Try this exercise. Whatever you do in the next 5 seconds, do not think of pink elephants playing musical instruments. Don't. I'm willing to bet that you couldn't fight images of pink elephants from entering your thoughts. A daft example maybe, but it illustrates how easily beliefs can become embedded in our subconscious minds. Girls, how many times have you passed a magazine rack to be bombarded with images of size 8 women with flawless skin that has been digitally enhanced or airbrushed? Yet, if you allow the images to settle in your mind long enough, you buy into the belief that this is the perfect image of a woman. Beliefs are imposed upon us every day. Thousands of messages and images of how we should look, how we should behave, react and think. The connection between values and beliefs. Our values are our emotional states based on life experience and inheritances from our parents, siblings, friends and teachers. They are the emotional states that we believe are the most important to experience, the pleasurable positive values we move towards, such as love, happiness, significance, security and spontaneity, or to avoid the negative values that bring us pain, such as fear, loss, sadness, doubt and boredom. Remember that cars, houses, money, relationships are not values, they are objects of desire. It is the feeling that these things bring to our lives that represent our values. A belief is nothing more than a feeling of absolute certainty that something has a particular meaning to us. Many of the beliefs we hold on to so tightly are either out of date, no longer serving us, or do not belong to us at all, having inherited them from others. Beliefs can either be positive or negative, and they can either limit or liberate us. So where do our beliefs come from? Our earliest and initial beliefs come from childhood. From birth up to the age of 2 years, we believe that anything is possible. We are born with only 2 fears, and without the inhibitions that develop later in childhood. Those 2 fears are a fear of loud noises and a fear of falling. From childhood onwards, we slowly begin to adopt and acquire other beliefs which we inherit from our parents, peers, teachers and others. What we see, hear and experience. We believe things when we were children that now seem silly. We will believe things now that we never even thought before. So how does this happen? Children have little or no information to analyse the situations, starting out in life as they do, as a blank sheet of paper. Because of this, they tend to accept information without judgment. For example, let's imagine a beautiful young girl who loves dancing. She practices with passion daily and is truly at her happiest when entering competitions and performing. If that child is raised praised only when performing or looking her best, she will have embedded in her belief that she's only worthy of praise when looking her best or performing at her best. Once this belief is accepted in her mind, it will lead to a change in behaviour from that day forward. She will believe she is only pretty and worthy of praise when winning or standing out from the crowd. From that day onward, that small child may be conditioned with the later interactions in life. Every human being wants to be loved unconditionally, looking pretty or not, performing well or not. In this example, it would not be surprising to discover that the child grows into an adult with a tendency for perfectionism, constantly seeking approval to validate her need for self-worth. Imagine the father of that child proudly boasting to his friends that his daughter could be a professional dancer or a model, but then following it up with, "Forget how she looks today, she hasn't washed her hair and she's got a few spots. When she dances she looks beautiful and she's my darling." The poor girl is too young to analyse the situation fully, and she believes she's only acceptable and praiseworthy when performing well and looking her best. The father has applied conditional love, albeit unknowingly, that until corrected by the child as she becomes an adult, will affect her beliefs about herself and the behaviours she will adopt and the outcomes that she will achieve. Some may say this would be good for the child, self-discipline. If the child were able to differentiate between being loved unconditionally and being loved for her beauty and performance, this would be fine. But very few children are born with this natural ability and wisdom. Who of us can say that we've not made similar, albeit lesser, mistakes with our children at some time or another? Between the ages of 1 and 18, we're told no on average 5 times a day, and positive things on average 4 times a year. What type of conditioning is that? What consequences should we expect? For an example of how beliefs can affect our outcomes, here is an excellent story recounted on video by Sir Kenneth Robinson, CBE, who was a British author, speaker and international advisor on education in the arts to government, non-profits, education and arts bodies. Ken tells of conducting research for a book on how people discover their talents and passions, and speaking to a famous choreographer, a lady called Gillian.
A wonderful woman, when she was a young kid in elementary school, was in constant trouble. She didn't pay attention, she fidgeted a great deal and tended to get up and wander around. Eventually the school contacted her mother and said that they thought Gillian had a learning difficulty, and they explained to her what she should do and that she should take Gillian to see a specialist. And her mother was naturally devastated to hear that. He asked to go and sit at the far end of the room on this leather sofa, and he talked to her mother about all the problems Gillian was having and asked her to describe them. And she said all this time that her mother was speaking to him, he was staring at Gillian. And she said, I was uncomfortable and I was sitting on my hands so I wouldn't fidget. This went on for several minutes, and then he stood up and he said to Gillian, look, this has been very interesting, Gillian, but I need to speak to your mother privately now. So if you wait here, we're going to leave you, but we'll be back. We won't be very far away. We'll come back in a few minutes. And she said they got up and they went out. But as they went out, he leaned across his desk and turned the radio on. And they got into the corridor, apparently, and he turned to her mother and said, just stand here for a moment and watch her, see what she does. She said there was a window back into the room, so she couldn't see them, but they could see her. She said the minute they were out of the room, she was on her feet, moving to the music. She said she danced around on top of the sofa, on the tables, and she said, because she'd been sitting still for so long. They watched this for a couple of minutes, and he turned to her mother, and he said, Mrs. Lynn, Gillian isn't sick. She's a dancer. Take her to a dance school. And she did. She went to the Royal Ballet School, and she said, I walked into this room and said, I'll never forget it. It was full of people like me, people who couldn't sit still. And as she put it, people who had to move to think. She was eventually accepted into the Royal Ballet, and then she became a soloist, a principal and a soloist. and had a wonderful career at the Royal Ballet, travelled the world with them. And then when she left, she formed her own company, the Gillian Lynn Dance Company, put all kinds of productions on in Broadway and the West End. Then she met Andrew Lloyd Webber, as an accomplished and very successful dancer and choreographer at this point. And Andrew asked her if she would choreograph Cats, which she did, and Phantom of the Opera, and other of his productions. She became his principal choreographer. She went on to give pleasure to millions and became a multi-millionaire. And it's perfectly possible these days that somebody else would tell her to sit down, calm down, and take these tablets. And she wasn't sick. She was a dancer. And I feel this for an awful lot of people, that if you stereotype people against a very narrow view of ability, then you automatically generate a very big conception of inability, and at worst, of disability. A lot of what goes on in our school systems is not the result of legislation, it's the result of habit and ritual. There is nothing anywhere really in most of our systems that requires that we educate kids by age group. We just do, because we think you have to, but you don't. And outside of schools, we wouldn't think of doing that. When kids leave school at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 4 o'clock, we don't say, now all the 4-year-olds be sure to go over there. Keep away from 8-year-olds, bad things happen, we know. Communities are intergenerational. We don't have to divide the day into subjects. We just do. You don't have to. There are lots of great schools that don't do that and having wonderful success as a result. Creativity is one of the defining characteristics of our species. It's one of the things that makes us human. We create the lives that we live through the possibilities we see and the opportunities we take, or the ones we step away from. It's how people's lives are transformed by discovering a talent and the passion and the purpose that goes with it. It's what the Gillian Lynn story is about. Creativity, in other words, isn't some exotic byproduct that happens to be present in a few people. We've come to think of it that way, but it's not true. Creativity is the pulse of human life. It's, we live in a city that wasn't here 150 years ago like this. This is being created by the interplay of millions of minds working together, collaborating, we're all of us now bathed in the great net of the World Wide Web and all of its works. This is new to our generation. This didn't happen before. It didn't come into being. It didn't come around like the oceans. We made this. Somebody designed the clothes that we wear. Creativity is what contributes to the nature of our humanity. We can use it and we can misuse it. So, to me, saying that education should cultivate children's creative capacities isn't a kind of an appeal to have some extra hour of free play-based activities on a Friday afternoon, though I think we should have free play-based activities on a Friday afternoon. It's to recognise that there is a set of capacities here which isn't separate from, but it's integrated with everything else that we do.
This true story recounted by Sir Kenneth illustrates the importance of beliefs. In the story, Gillian's mother would not accept the school belief that her daughter was without talent or ability. If she had, Gillian may have been cursed with the belief that she was useless, which would likely have impacted on her happiness and success for the rest of her life. As a result of her mother's belief, Gillian developed her own belief in herself, uncovered her true passion and talent, and lived a wholesome, successful and happy life. Types of belief. There are two basic types of belief: generalised and conditional. Generalised beliefs are those where we group life or people as one. For example, life is wonderful. People are basically good. I'm a caring, loving individual. Conditional beliefs are those where we apply a condition that precedes the belief, such as, if I exercise more regularly, I'll extend my life. If I love her more, she will love me more in return, which is a common false belief that causes so many problems in relationships. Conditional beliefs make the statement, if this applies, then that will happen. So where do beliefs get stored? Each of us is unique, and forms beliefs from different inputs, not only in our conscious but also in our subconscious mind. Our subconscious acts as our filing cabinet and is totally non-judgmental. As we move forward in our lives, beliefs can be activated or triggered and impact on the way we react and the results we achieve and the choices we make, careers, relationships, care for ourselves and others, our ability to love fully. Since our beliefs are given back to us exactly as our subconscious mind received them, we think and behave in a way that is consistent with our beliefs. In some circumstances, these beliefs can be outdated for our current needs or inherited from others to whom they are more applicable. In these instances, these beliefs are no longer serving our best interests and can hold us back. So, how do we cope with our beliefs? We will in this session explore two types of belief: negative and positive, empowering and limiting. Some people cope with their negative limited beliefs by ignoring them, pretending they don't exist. Unfortunately, this action alone is not sufficient to prevent the impact that they can have on our behaviour. Once a limiting belief is brought to the surface and identified, we can take responsibility for choosing to change it if we so wish. All around us every day are life experiences, information we absorb into our subconscious. If we take these experiences in negatively, then the person that suffers most is ourselves. If we recognise the opportunity to interpret events in a more positive way, then we empower ourselves to move forward. The way we train our mind to react is important. Rather than constantly criticising ourselves with our inner voice, we can construct our inner questions to be more positive and constructive. For example, how well did I do that? Could I do it better? By asking ourselves these sort of questions, we can digest information in a positive way into our subconscious, where it will remain until we need to apply it. Such positive information will reinforce other positive beliefs already there. Learning to accept responsibility for our perceptions of the world and understanding that our limits are self-induced by our attitude of thought is invaluable to our development and growth. The power of beliefs. Once you've identified your beliefs, changing those that are limiting you by resolving any that conflict with your innermost desires and embraced fully those that serve you best, you will be in a position to literally take control of and change your life for the better. How beliefs affect our thought processes. When we examine what effect beliefs actually have upon our thoughts, we can see that there is a domino effect in place here. The first domino in the chain is your beliefs. The beliefs you have help reinforce or discard your values. The combination of beliefs and values results in the thoughts that you have, which mixed with feelings become our emotions. From all of this, our expectations are born, which lead to our behavioural pattern and the actions that we take. Expectations mixed with behaviour and action creates a force of attraction which magnetically attracts the results that we experience, good or bad. Your beliefs become your reality. Perhaps the most powerful single factor in your quest for happiness is your belief about yourself. Whatever you believe with feeling becomes your reality. Whatever you intensely believe becomes your reality. We have a tendency to block out any information coming into us that is inconsistent with our reality, with our beliefs. Successful and happy people absolutely believe that they have the ability to succeed and the right to happiness. They will not entertain, think about or even talk about the possibility that they will fail. They do not even consider the possibility of failure. You always act in a manner consistent with your beliefs. The most important belief system you can build is one of the highest self-worth, where you absolutely believe that you're going to achieve your goals. Positive thinking can sometimes be no more than wishing or hoping. But positive knowing is when you absolutely know that no matter what, you will be happy and successful. Control over your thoughts is the hardest exercise in mental self-mastery that you'll ever engage in. See if you can talk and think about only what you desire and not talk or think about anything that you don't want for the next 24 hours. Then you'll see what you're really made of. It's a hard thing to do. But with practice, you can reach the point where you are thinking about your goals and desires most of the time. Then your whole life will start to change for the better. 2 things that you can do to build a belief system that is consistent with the happiness that you desire. Number 1. First, continually repeat to yourself the words, pictures and thoughts consistent with your dreams and goals. Whatever you repeat often enough, over and over, becomes a new belief in your mind. Number 2. Second, get a goal for yourself to think and talk only about the things that will make you happy for the next 24 hours. This will be one of the hardest things you ever do, but if you can keep your mind on what you want and off what you don't want for 24 hours, you can begin to change your entire future. Whatever you believe with emotion becomes your reality. You do not necessarily believe what you see, but you see what you have already decided to believe. Your beliefs control your realities. You always act in a manner consistent with your innermost beliefs and convictions. In fact, you can tell what you or anyone else believes by simply looking at what they do. It's not what a person says, or hopes, or writes, or wishes, or intends that is a clear indication of his beliefs. It's only his actions. Actions truly do speak much louder than words, and it's only the actions that a person actually takes that tells you what he truly believes. Since you act in a manner consistent with your beliefs and you can control your actions, if you engage in actions consistent with the beliefs you want to have about yourself and your life, you eventually develop those beliefs, just as you develop muscles by lifting weights. For example, if you absolutely believe you are destined to be happy in your chosen circumstances, and you walk, talk, act and behave every single day exactly the way a happy person would act, you will eventually develop the mindset of a happy individual in your circumstances. As you progress, you'll begin to get the results. Your belief will become the actual fact. Your beliefs will become your realities. 2 things that you can do immediately to put these ideas into action. 1. First, begin to believe today that you are programmed and designed to be happy and successful. Create in yourself the beliefs that you most desire, the beliefs that serve you best. 2. Make a habit of walking, talking and behaving as if you were already enjoying the blissfully happy life that you dream of. Your behaviour and actions will build your belief system and will become your reality. Liberate your mind and spirit from negative experiences in the past. Recognise that whatever you did in the past was done by a different person and than the person you are today. That person in the past behaved differently than you would if you had to do it all over again in the moment. So let it go. Accept that you are not perfect and that you have done silly things in your life. We all have. So has everyone else. Forgive yourself and get on with the wonderful future that lies ahead of you. How to identify beliefs. So why is identifying beliefs important to our lives? Let's take the example of the lady who was trying to lose weight. After some early success, she couldn't figure out why she reverted back to the old habits of binging on food that caused her weight loss to plateau. With some investigation, she discovered an idea in her mind that she agreed to long ago and had since forgotten. She had agreed to feeling deprived if she didn't eat everything that she wanted. Since our minds naturally direct us to avoid the unpleasant feelings like deprived, she ate food to avoid those feelings. Beliefs in her mind she was not aware of were driving her to unwanted behaviours. When she stepped outside the emotion and the perspective of being deprived, she saw a completely different picture. By overeating, she was actually depriving herself of a healthy body and physical vitality that she really wanted. By identifying that one belief about food, she's now back on track, on her way to changing her eating habits. Finding these hidden beliefs often requires that we do some hunting. The process is rather like investigating a crime. We begin by gathering clues until all the pieces fit in a way that we can see the hidden belief that drives destructive behaviours and habits. You might also think of it as solving the mystery of who you are. Sometimes these beliefs in our mind are right in front of us and we don't see them. The same way we might not see the windshield because we've trained ourselves to look through it. It might not seem much until we bump our head into it. Beliefs are the same. We have to retrain our mind to see the beliefs in front of us. Identifying self-limiting beliefs. It's useful to understand why we form self-limiting beliefs in the first place and how we act them out. Let's examine some self-limiting beliefs. Caught between two decisions. Should I go this way or that? This is a dilemma that can result in nothing being done. The limiting belief here may be, I can't make a decision. Stuck in a mental rut. We may have always done something in a particular way that seems to have worked in the past. We get frustrated when it doesn't work this time. But we stay with what we know, having bought into the belief as a form of habit. This limiting belief can be one of the I can't change varieties. Dreaming. Constructive dreaming is useful for realization and attraction of goals. But we all know that dreams do not become positive reality until some action is taken. The limiting belief here might be, I can do it tomorrow. Fatalistic attitude. The bubble has to burst. My luck won't last forever. The limiting belief here is a general one with a self-sabotaging theme. Outside influence. You'll never do that. You're expecting too much. You'll set yourself up for disappointment. Don't set your sights too high, then you won't get hurt. The limiting belief here is to be influenced by the limited beliefs of others, however well intended. To identify a limiting belief, a useful exercise is to ask yourself a series of searching questions. 1. Who are you being right now? 2. What is holding you back? 3. If your life was perfect right now, what would you be doing? 4. What has brought you to this point? Having identified the limiting belief, you can now challenge it internally and create a better one. There will be plenty of evidence to support the new belief, considering it is more likely to lead to the positive outcome that the limited belief is obstructing. To overcome barriers to your progress, a systematic series of questions will lead to a better formed outcome. Ask yourself, what do I really want from this right now? When, where, and with whom do I want this? What will I hear, see, and feel when I achieve this? Am I in charge of the changes? Will I lose anything when I achieve this outcome? Is the outcome worth the effort? What life consequences will the outcome bring? Here are some common irrational beliefs. It's essential for me to be loved or approved by almost everyone for virtually everything I do. I should be thoroughly competent, adequate and achieving in everything. Some people are bad, wicked, and they should be severely punished. It's terrible when things are not going the way I want them to go. My happiness is externally caused. I've no ability to control my sorrow or rid myself of negative feelings. If something scares me, I should be preoccupied with it and upset about it. It's easier to avoid facing my life difficulties and responsibilities than to undertake more rewarding forms of self-discipline. My past is all important because something once strongly affected my life. It should indefinitely do so. People and things should be different from the way they are, and it's shattering if perfect solutions to the grim realities of life are not immediately found. Maximum human happiness can only be achieved by inactivity and inaction, or by passively enjoying myself. I should always feel happy, confident and in control of my emotions. I must never fail or make a mistake. People will not love and accept me as a flawed and vulnerable human being. I need everybody's approval to feel worthwhile. If I'm not loved, then life is not worth living. If I'm alone, then I'm bound to feel miserable and unfulfilled. My worthiness depends on my achievements, or my intelligence, or my status, or my attractiveness. People who love each other shouldn't fight. I shouldn't feel angry, anxious, inadequate, jealous or vulnerable. People should always be the way I expect them to be. Quite a few irrational beliefs there, aren't there? What we're going to do now is look at an exercise to eliminate irrational, negative and self-limiting beliefs. Unless we focus our minds on the task of challenging our beliefs, our subconscious mind simply accepts unchallenged, irrational, self-limiting beliefs as real. An example of this is unrealistic fear. Whilst not advocating reckless actions, most of the fears that we allow to affect our thoughts has little or no validating evidence to support it. When fear arises in your life, question its validity. Is it real or imagined? Say to yourself, fear equals false expectations appearing real. The following process works well. Identify the irrational restricting beliefs and the negative assumptions that reinforce them. Challenge the validity of those beliefs by challenging the assumptions under them. In what ways could they be wrong or incomplete? The more challenges you can develop, the weaker the ties will be to the restricting belief. Explore positive beliefs that would challenge your negative ones. Find validation for empowering rather than restricting. Again, the more you can reinforce empowering your beliefs, the more likely you will be attached to restricting beliefs. Adopt a statement you are willing to work with that turns a restricting belief into an empowering one. Each time your habit pattern starts to move towards reinforcing the restricting belief, go back to your written statement. That statement is your guide for turning around restricting belief systems. With determination and repetition of thought processes, it's as simple to replace a destructive belief with a constructive positive one as it was to form the original irrational belief in the first place. Start with a single irrational belief. Don't make your goal so ambitious that you sabotage yourself. One of my favourite authors on this subject is Tony Robbins. In his book, Awaken the Giant Within, he writes about breaking old belief systems by visualising a negative situation in often comical ways that minimise the power. The UK's most famous expert on hypnotherapy, personal change expert and author Paul McKenna, introduced similar principles in his book Change Your Life in 7 Days. He details his movies of your mind process, which suggests closing our eyes to imagine a large cinema or TV screen on which to project images of the person or circumstances, and then using our imagination to change how the person or the location appears. If your belief involves a person, freeze frame the picture so it's still. If the image is in color, has colour in it, drain it down to black and white. Shrink the image until it's tiny. Move the location of the image until it's further away. Give the person a clown's nose, pink hair and Mickey Mouse ears. Imagine the sound of their voice. Then alter it by giving them a deep, sexy voice. Change it again until they sound like a squeaky little mouse. If the source of the restricting belief is a person, see that person reduced in size, just as your dimensions grow. Place the person far away, or locked in a container, or only as a cartoon with a squeaky voice. If it's a place, play with the size and the structure so that its qualities become less than life size. When you feel progress with converting the restricting belief you've tackled, select another one. Later in this course, in the sessions on the perception and thoughts, the power of the brain and the mind, we'll learn that focused thought about a particular belief is the first step to changing irrational, negative or self-limiting beliefs. Every thought that you allow to reside in your mind sends out a vibration which never perishes. Everything that happens to you, everything you become and accomplish is determined by the way you think, by the way you use your mind. This is especially relevant when applied to your beliefs. As you begin changing your thoughts and beliefs, you begin changing your life. Thought is the architect of your destiny. When your mind dwells continually upon one train of thought about an irrational, negative or self-limiting belief, a groove is formed in the brain into which the thought force runs automatically. And such a habit of thought survives even death, unless and until we replace it with a persistent focus on positive things. With committed focus on more positive beliefs, we can replace the negative grooves with the ones better designed to serve you and meet your needs. More about this in later sessions, but for now, remember that what you think and the way you think about something creates the domino effect that we saw earlier. Your challenge is to make that final domino, your results domino, a positive one by replacing any of your negative first belief dominoes with more positive ones. That brings this session about your belief systems to a close. Coming up in the next session, your core values. What are your core values and why are they so important to your happiness? Identifying the core values of importance to you and where they come from. Thank you.